Alright, well, for some reason I've been getting a lot of this vegan spam on my Facebook page, so I guess I'll rant about it for a little bit. Alrighty, so I took a whole whack of these spam pictures. Here's the one. The only thing standing between you and veganism is habit. Well, technically, veganism is a habit in and of itself. Each and every animal on Earth has as much right to be here as you and me. And they use a picture of a bear. And yet bears, they rip apart living fish by the dozen. And are vegans okay with eating fish? Nope, because fish are living things. So here in this picture, there's a cutoff between like chickens and cows and then the rest of the animals. Well, technically speaking, in some cultures, eating cats and dogs are a thing. Not all cultures are the same. And there's one culture that I know of that eats horses, the French. But, the French are weird. Anyway, humans are the only species that drink milk after infancy. No. Cats drink milk all the time. Even dogs will, if it's available. Where people live. That picture to me looks like it was taken in some third world country. I've never seen any cities that are in and around my area that I've been to look like that. But that's what vegans do. They take a picture of the worst of the worst. And in the bottom here, you see these deer. They look like they're on a path that was made by humans. Hmm. Do you know why deer stick closer to humans? Because they don't want to go out into the bush. Why? Because in the bush, there's things like cougars and used to be wolves, but people got rid of the wolves. Moreover, people have these things called yards, which are lush grass, freshly cut grass at that, and deer love that. There you go, deer. You're welcome. Now stop getting in front of my car. Animal abusing cults, veganism, and then cultism. So, if you eat meat, you're abusing animals and you're part of a cult. Now, to be fair, veganism is also a cult because they don't eat meat and they prescribe to the narrative of we don't eat meat. So it's a group of people who preach a doctrine of not eating meat. Therefore, they're a cult. And like with every cult, no matter how much you try to explain to them that veganism is actually more harmful to the environment than eating meat, they're completely closed off to the reasoning. Now, here's some of my reasoning why veganism is bad for the environment. First off, vegans say that if we got rid of all the animals, we could use all that land to grow crops. Now, I'm thinking of dairy cows, right? They have lots of pasture land, acres and acres of it. Why do we use cows? Because they can eat grass. We can't. And just because you have lots of grassland doesn't mean it's fertile enough to grow things like tomatoes and such. Or the climate. For me, I'm a Canadian. Do we have an all year round growing season? Nope. So why do we use lots of cows? Because we got lots of grassland that we can't grow much on it. So the cows, again, eat the grass and we use them for dairy and meat. Now, there's a place called Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken. Their climate is divided into two seasons, wet and dry, which is pretty cool. It just sucks that their socialist dictatorship is, well, a socialist dictatorship. So when I think of Canada, say, going all vegan, I just think to myself, how would we produce enough vegetables and fruit to feed our whole population? The answer is we'd have to import it. And that's a whole other can of worms because, again, whenever you import stuff, you're affecting the environment and probably killing animals along the way because cargo ships produce CO2. Another reason veganism wouldn't work, they don't like fisheries. So how many countries rely heavily on fish for feeding their population? The first country that comes to mind, Japan. Without fisheries, they'd have to import their food. So again, wherever they import their food from, we'll have to make more agricultural land. So when I was thinking of agriculture, I thought about the rainforest because I heard a lot about how it's being cut down. So here's one thing I found. Much of the fruit, cereals, and plushes we buy from tropical countries have been grown in areas where tropical rainforests once thrived. The forests are cut down to make way for vast plantations where products such as bananas, palm oil, pineapple, sugarcane, tea, and coffee are grown. So, yeah, that's what would happen if vegans had their way. You'd have countries cutting down rainforests, forests, to make way for agricultural land. More of it. What about the wildlife that called that land home? Oh, well, it's dead. And I heard a saying about the rainforest and how it's one of the Earth's lungs, the other one being the coral reefs, if I'm not mistaken. But these vegans, they're oblivious to it because they're all up in their emotions about slaughtering animals for food. And here's another fact about animals. I grew up around a whole whack of dairy farms. On these dairy farms, they had land that they would cut for hay, and they had land for cattle corn to feed with their cows. And how did they fertilize said cattle corn? With manure. From what? The cows. If I'm not mistaken, that's what's called a symbiotic relationship, where they use the grass to feed the cows, and then they use the cow's manure to fertilize the grass and the cattle corn. So the circle goes round. If everything went vegan, no animals, that symbiotic relationship wouldn't even exist. So you would shatter thousands of years of effective, homogeneous farming for what? Emotions? And emotions are the bane of logic and reasoning. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this matter. I may have made a similar video in the past, but I can't remember. It's been so long. But anyway, take care out there in clown world.